Pioneers embarking on a journey to an unknown continent to establish a new life in the wild, a hopeful mother carrying her newborn baby who holds promises for their future, and suddenly, people who disappear without a trace. These sentences are not the plot of an exciting novel but a summary of a true story that happened in history. The story of the Roanoke Lost Colony. The disappearance of a group of colonists who came to America with the aim of establishing a British colony, leaving no trace behind, remains an unsolved mystery to this day. The story of the lost colony has puzzled historians, academics, and researchers for centuries, yet no clue has been found to solve this enigma. The tale of the lost colony began in the 16th century when England decided to establish a colony in the New World. In 1587, England made the decision to create a colony in the New World to claim land ownership and bring its wealth back to England. The exploration and settlement expeditions to Virginia in the New World were organized by Sir Walter Raleigh, an aristocratic explorer. He obtained authorization from Queen Elizabeth I to establish a colony in what is now known as Virginia. In order to retain the privileges and rights he gained over the American lands, he had to establish a colony within 10 years. Although Sir Walter Raleigh himself never set foot in the New World, between 1585 and 1587, he was determined to establish a permanent British colony. However, all of the expeditions he organized during this period ended in failure. The first expedition set sail in 1585 under the command of Sir Richard Grenville. Before completing their journey, the main ship suffered an accident, resulting in a significant depletion of their provisions. Despite arriving at their destination, the colonists resorted to resolving disputes with the local natives, who had stolen a silver cup, by killing many of them. Sir Richard Grenville promised to return in April 1586 but failed to do so. However, Sir Francis Drake, who returned from the Caribbean in June, found the colonists and offered to take them back to England. When Sir Grenville returned to the island later, he found an empty colony. He left behind a small settlement and returned to England. At that time, John White, an English artist and a friend of Sir Walter Raleigh, set sail with his daughter carrying a baby, her husband, and 114 passengers to establish a colony in the present-day Virginia territory. When they went to retrieve the 15 people left behind from the previous expedition, they only found the remains of one person. They learned from the nearby Powhatan Tribe that the settlers had been attacked, and 9 of them had escaped on a boat. The colony and a new hope. On July 22, 1587, the settlers landed on Roanoke Island. They began building their homes and establishing a permanent settlement, interpreting the birth of John White's daughter, Eleanor Dare's baby, as an auspicious sign. They named the baby Virginia in honor of the Queen of England, using words commonly associated with the Queen. Establishing a colony in the wild was a challenging task, and the settlers soon realized that they did not have enough provisions to survive the first winter. During this time, John White, who took on the role of governor, established friendly relations with the Powhatan Tribe and tried to mend the relationships with the tribe that had been attacked by previous settlers. White's drawings of the Native Americans and the region became important sources for historians investigating this mystery. When a colonist who went hunting was killed by the natives, the frightened settlers asked John White to return to England and call for help. White agreed to come back with provisions. Thus, he left 115 settlers on Roanoke Island and set sail for England. However, when White returned to England, the country was at war, and as a result, his ship could not return to Roanoke Island until 1590. The quest to return. In the spring of 1588, John White found an opportunity to return to Roanoke Island. However, due to problems on the ship and the captain's attack on other ships, resulting in the loss of cargo, he was forced to return to England. The ongoing war with Spain also made it difficult for John White to gather enough supplies, causing him to wait for 3 more years. Finally, he managed to convince the captain of another expedition to pass by Roanoke Island on their way to the Caribbean. After 3 long years, when John White returned to Roanoke, he was uncertain about what he would find. Nevertheless, he never could have predicted what he saw upon arrival. There was not a single person left from the colony. The only things White and his men found in the newly established settlement were a few small cannons, an open chest, and the fence posts that used to encircle the Roanoke settlement. The notable thing was that one of the posts had Croatoan written on it, and on a nearby tree, the letters CRO were carved. To the south of Roanoke, there was an island called Croatoan, where a peaceful Native American tribe lived. White believed that the colonists must have gone there. The settlers had agreed that if anything happened to them, they would draw a Maltese cross on nearby trees. However, John White couldn't find this sign on any tree, leading him to conclude that the settlers hadn't been forcibly taken but had left the colony of their own accord. He attempted to go to Croatoan Island to find the lost colony, but he was caught in a hurricane on the way, and he had to return to England without learning the fate of the settlers. Subsequently, even though later American settlers searched for the Roanoke colonists, they couldn't find any news about even a single one of the 115 people. Did the colonists want to go elsewhere? The ships carrying the colonists moved towards the Chesapeake Bay, which is now in present-day Virginia. The ships reached the shores of this area in July. Later, this group, which would be known as the Lost Colony, reportedly wanted to settle here. However, the naval commander did not accept their request to settle in this new harbor instead of Roanoke Island and left the colonists on Roanoke Island. Theories attempting to explain the Lost Colony. After the disappearance of the Roanoke Colony, over the course of 400 years, researchers and academics have put forth numerous theories. These theories range from the possibility that all the settlers died from a disease like smallpox, to being captured and killed by the Native Americans, and even the idea that they might have been abducted by aliens to another planet. Some theories seemed more plausible than others, and there were some traces left by the lost colonists. However, these traces were few and widely scattered. The likelihood of the settlers dying from a disease was considered low because John White didn't find any bodies or graves in the area he investigated. The fact that the structures had disappeared was noteworthy. It was explained that the Native Americans might have come after the colonists left and used the wooden structures as firewood. Still, no concrete evidence was found. In 1607, when Captain John Smith and some settlers arrived in Virginia near the Jamestown colony, they met with the chief of the Powhatan Tribe, who claimed that the Roanoke arrivals were killed due to their alliance with another tribe that was trying to eliminate his tribe. However, as there were no remains or archaeological evidence to support his claim, the English didn't find his account convincing. In 1616, rumors circulated that the Roanoke survivors were living somewhere nearby, but despite all search efforts, no conclusive results were obtained. In 1709, an English explorer named John Lawson encountered the Hatteras tribe from the Croatoan tribe and noted that they had gray eyes and lighter hair compared to other local tribes. In the 1880s, a man named Hamilton Macmillan, living near the Pembroke Native Americans in North Carolina, claimed that these natives were descended from the Roanokers of Virginia. Sir Raleigh had used the same description in the past for these colonists. Hamilton also asserted that these natives had light hair and facial features resembling Europeans, and some even had surnames similar to those of the Lost Colony. In modern times, a project has been initiated to study the DNA of Native Americans whose surnames resemble those of the colonists. Efforts to uncover the fate of the Lost Colony continue, and it is believed that science may provide some answers to this mystery. Otherwise, Roanoke will remain one of America's oldest enigmas.